So, Louise, you told me yesterday that you had been waiting your entire professional life for your Barbies to come into play. So how much of that was actually true?
Look, it's probably as unexpectedly true because when you're a journalist, you're probably not thinking that I'm going to end up writing about the Barbie movie. But my God, if I could have spoken to even 10-year-old me, 12-year-old me and said, you know what, just hang on a couple of decades, Barbie's going to be cool, you're not going to have to hide your light. And it happened. And I love that Barbie is being taken seriously as she should be.
Okay, so I really want to ask you about this, but first I just want to get into just how deep is your love for Barbie? Because I know you had 18 of them. Tell me a little bit about growing up with Barbie and what Barbie, I guess, meant for you.
Well, look, I have a clear memory of the first Barbie I was given, which was Kissing Barbie for about my 5th birthday, I think. She had a button on the back that you pressed and her lips pursed up and you could give her a kiss. And then I got my last one when I was 13, so I was in year 7, and that was Whitney, Jewel Secrets Barbie. And I remember at that point, it was like, I've almost pushed it too far, but I just love them. And every birthday, every Christmas, that was the presents that I got. When Mum went overseas, not that it ever happened very often, but she would bring back, I'd get a Barbie, from the trip. So I'd had Barbie and the Rockers came from Germany. I got Skipper from Singapore. And I love that they just always looked a little bit different from the ones we had in Australia. So I was very much a Barbie connoisseur. But my whole weekend, my whole life, that was the main thing I spent playing with was Barbies. Weekends were spent sitting in front of my cupboard where I had constructed a whole Barbie house. I did have the dream house, but that eventually got deconstructed and moved into a bigger setup in my bedroom cupboard that I had built myself, which included water beds made out of wine bladders filled with water. God, my parents weren't big dreamers, so I don't even know where I got them, but there they were. Dad's hankies with the sheets, had the whole setup, and that was my life. That was storytelling. My grandmother would be babysitting us in the school holidays, and she'd say, "Gee, you're quiet. What's going on up there?" And I was quite happily playing literally for hours and hours, and on the weekends, we'd go to my best friend Kirsten's house. We would make clothes. My Barbies would go on holidays to her Barbie's places. She also had a Barbie house built in her cupboard, so I could go on and on and on about this. But this was my childhood.
And then after many, many years as an arts and culture writer, you get this chance to interview Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, last month for a story in the Spectrum section of the Sydney Morning Herald. And you brought some of your favorite Barbies to show her. So which ones did you show her? And why? And what did she make of it?
I did. Look, I brought along, because I said I had 18 Barbies. I still have them all in reasonably good condition because I did look after them. So I thought I'd brought along Derek, who you can see here from Derek and the Rockers. He's not in the movie. There's only Ken and one Alan, but Derek was sort of an outlier in Barbie world, but he was a supporting act in Barbie and the Rockers. Dee Dee, his bandmate, she came along as well because she's in very good condition. And Day to Night Barbie, which was always one of my favourites. She makes her appearance at the end of the Barbie movie. And Margot actually dressed as Day to Night Barbie in Korea as part of the publicity tour. And so I brought these 3 along. So I thought they were kind of represented, Barbie to me. Sort of the spread of the ones I had at home. Sort of, 2 guys, a lot of stereotypical Barbies, and Dee Dee, who is black, and I also had an Italian Barbie and a Hawaiian Barbie. So for me, Barbie was never always stereotypical Barbie. I had quite a sweep of them. And I've also brought along today to one of my daughter's Barbies. She's Barbie Extra, and the side of her head is shaved, and she's kind of what you'd call a fuller figured Barbie. She has a belly button and underpants. Only new things introduced into the Barbie world recently.
And so how did Greta Gerwig respond when you were like, look what I've brought?
She was great. I was a bit like, I'd carried them into my bag, and I was sitting there and I was like, how do I introduce Barbie to Greta Gerwig? And I'm like, it's Greta Gerwig. She's written a whole movie about Barbie. I can just pull them out. And I just said to her at the beginning, I was like, I've brought something to show you, and I hope this isn't too weird. And she was just like, I love them. I love them. And she said, it reminded her of why she made the movie. She said, this forgets that it comes down to these dolls and girls playing with these dolls and how people, still have such a close relationship with them. They're deep in people's memories.
And she was a bit of a kindred spirit, I believe, in terms of her relationship to Barbies, because I think she told Time magazine, this is Greta Gerwig, I played with dolls too long. I was still doing it in junior high. Kids were drinking and I was playing with dolls. And so I guess there was a sort of connection there.
There was a little bit. She said, though, she wasn't playing with Barbies. I didn't couldn't quite work out what dolls she was playing with, but she had sort of hand-me-down Barbies from either her neighbours or her older sisters. But it was, for her, it was storytelling, which is exactly what I did. You know, I had whole scripts made up of, you know, the dramas that went on in my little personal Barbie land, and that kept me busy for many, many years.
So I wanted to ask you what you make then of all this political commentary that the film has sort of unleashed, specifically that this portrayal of Barbie is even perhaps a bit insidious. Greta Gerwig, she's written this script that addresses many of the problematic issues that women in particular have had with Barbie over the years. The real teenage girls in the movie, when Barbie sort of enters the real world, they call her a fascist. And they tell her that she made life horrible for them by giving them unrealistic standards of beauty to aspire to. So what do you make of all the people that are like, I don't know about this Barbie?
Look, I don't want to sound like I'm being too simplistic about it, but I almost think those people are overthinking it. Barbie is a doll. She's a toy. That's what I saw her as. She was just something to play with. I never looked at Barbie and went, oh, I wish I had a waist that tiny. I wish my heels were permanently lifted off the ground. And the great thing in the movie when they call her a fascist and Barbie says, but I don't control the commerce or the railways. Like, she's not a fascist. But one of those girls in that scene just said, I still love Barbie. And that's okay. And that's the thing, it's, you know, it's about little girls in a way, that scene for me was hiding who they are. Like, they're feeling like they have to grow up and it's not cool to still like the stuff that you used to play with. And I think that is so much of what Greta likes to say in her films, is that it's difficult to grow up. You know, that women have real emotions, little girls have real emotions, and we shouldn't dismiss them.
Right. Okay. And so I'm just wondering if your positive interactions with Barbie had anything to do with the fact that you were introduced to them in the 1980s. Because I was doing a bit of research, and you do see some incarnations of Barbie that certainly I, as a woman, definitely had a problem with. You know, like in the 1960s, there was Barbie Babysits in 1963, a doll that came with a book titled How to Lose Weight, which advised don't eat. And that same book was sold with 1965's Slumber Party Barbie, along with a scale permanently set to 110 pounds. And of course, famously, there was that Barbie released in 1992, which I think was maybe after your Barbie years. They had Teen Talk Barbie programmed to say, you know, a number of different phrases, including math class is tough.
It was.
So I'm just wondering, do you think, had you been introduced to those Barbies, that maybe that would have changed your perspective or not?
Look, I'm not sure, because I said I honestly looked at Barbie as a plaything. Like, I probably wasn't thinking that deeply about her. I was using her as for my own storytelling devices. Like, the Barbie that came in the box had nothing to do with the Barbie that the storylines I ended up creating for her. Like, I never stuck to, like, Day to Night Barbie here. You know, she has a lovely jacket and skirt that when you turn it around, you know, she's got a nice chiffon skirt. I mean, that was, you know, I wasn't like, I pretty much, in my mind, I think she was married to Derek here. That was their partnership in my sort of playing. And I don't think I made her a working woman, or if I did, I'm not sure what I did with it. But I created my own stories from Barbie. She never was just what she was in the box, which is what the movie is trying to say. We shouldn't put women in a box. It is about the multiplicity of Barbies, about the multiplicity of women.
Yes.
So don't put anyone in a box.
Yes.
Is what it's trying to say.
And so what did you make of, because this was definitely some of my favorite moments in the movie, was, I don't know if she's called Irrepressible Thoughts of Death Barbie, but that, or Cellulite Barbie, Depression Barbie. Tell me what you made of those new incarnations of Barbie.
Look, I thought they were really funny. And again, it was playing to what women know of themselves. It's like, of course we're able to laugh at ourselves. I think sometimes people look at the way some women's stories, I think, and I hate to use the term women's stories, but
Stories that feature women
Stories that
prominently.
feature women, but it doesn't have to be all deep. We are able to laugh at ourselves. Shock, horror. We can laugh the fact that, yes, we're sitting on the sofa in a dirty jumper watching Pride and Prejudice 8 times. We've all done it. We can laugh at ourselves, and that's what I think Greta does so well. She looks at the whole woman, and you can be perfect Barbie. You can be Barbie sitting on the sofa watching Pride and Prejudice. That's fine.
So what then did you make of, obviously, the way Greta Gerwig has used Barbie to I mean, she has, of course, incorporated at the very heart of the movie, which is this criticism of patriarchy and what it does to women. So what do you make of that interaction, you know, given that for you, you know, it doesn't have all that significance, and that she's used it to tell that story?
Look, I think it's a really interesting way into a broader conversation, because I think when people said, oh, there's going to be a Barbie movie, Who would have thought we would have ended up in some type of discussion about the patriarchy versus the matriarchy? And I think if you're putting those kind of discussions into a blockbuster film that is being seen by millions, billions of people, it's made more than $1 billion Australian dollars at the box office by now. So if people are seeing that and thinking about those stories, I think that's wonderful.
And so you've given your daughter Edie, who's 6, your Barbies to play with.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, you've mentioned here, I believe she's called, if she's not called Curvy Barbie, that's what she is.
Yes.
She's got a fuller figure than the Barbies that in the 80s or
Yep.
in the 60s. And you told me the other day that the Barbies that you had in the 80s, their clothing, of course, doesn't fit on Curvy Barbie now because the Barbies we grew up with had such tiny waists and such big breasts. So what did your daughter make of that?
I mean, she was more frustrated that the Barbie wedding dress I had keeps falling down because her, not the fuller figure ones, but her other Barbies, breasts aren't big enough to hold up 80s Barbies fittings. And that's okay. I think she was just like, and I was like, ooh, just got to pull it in a bit tighter.
Yeah.
There, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she doesn't think of it as anything weird. It's just that it doesn't fit.
Though she did call this one fat.
She did call that one fat, but I think that is just someone just looking, a 6-year-old
Yeah.
looking at it and purely saying what is in front of her. But she's not fat. She's just,
No.
she's round.
Yeah. And so you know you don't have any concerns that, you know, of all these people, including myself, I came out of the movie and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. And I took 2 of my children, one that was 14 and one who's 10. And my daughter says, well, how come you never let us play with Barbies? Because I wasn't allowed to play with Barbies. My mother definitely did not think it was a good role model, which is the view that I adopted. And my daughter said, how come you didn't let me play with Barbies? And I said, oh, I just didn't sort of bring it up. And then my son, who's 10, says, you don't like Barbie? And I said, well, no, because I've got all these complicated feelings about Barbie. You know, I do. I've always thought, yes, it's this very unrealistic sort of version of womanhood that, you know, no one should be aspiring to. And I've got friends that say, yeah, I actually thought I would look like that when I grew up. I can't say I did think that about myself. I didn't. Yeah. And so, but you never had any concerns that she's going to think, I should have an 8-inch waist.
No, not at all. Because I think the way she plays with it, like they do things. You know, her whole thing is the Barbies are doing something. Like they're getting ready to go in their camper van to go on a camping trip. She's not looking at it and going, oh my goodness, I want a skinny waist. And that's, as I said, that's exactly what I did. You're just going on adventures with Barbie. But she also plays with Lego. She'll sit there forever building stuff.
Right.
She's always got her head stuck in a book. Barbie's just one of many toys, just like it was for me, that she plays with, and it doesn't sit there and just focus on what Barbie looks like. It's what she can do with Barbie.
Right. Okay. And for you, actually, I found this very moving. Barbies have a sort of very emotional significance for you because they remind you of your mother, who very tragically died when you were 24. But she, I believe, bought you, if not all of your Barbies, most of your Barbies.
She bought me all of my Barbies. That was it. That's Barbie is something that's very connected to me for Mum. Like that was the key present. And if in between birthdays and Christmas, you know, we'd sometimes stop at the toy shop and we would look and I'd just always go, I like this one, like this one. And it was something that she was really into, and that was that was the presents that she gave me. And I think she always put a lot of thought into it. And so that's, I suppose, that's what I take from that, is it's a very thoughtful gift.
Yeah.
So.
And the questions remain today, I think, because I think you mentioned that you once got a Barbie and it wasn't for a birthday and it wasn't for Christmas. It was sort of like an out of the blue Barbie. Yeah. And what now you sort of wonder what sort of prompted that?
I mean, it's just one of those many things where you don't have your mother around anymore to answer questions that you have. But I just do remember coming home from school one day and Mum just said she had a surprise for us, and we had to go and find it. And it was in the garden, and it was Golden Dream Barbie, and she had a great golden pantsuit and golden cape, and it was just there for whatever reason. It wasn't birthday, it wasn't Christmas, and my brother got a truck or something, and that was it. And it was just something special to give us. And I don't know why.
Yeah. So I'm interested in what you make of Robbie Brenner, one of the producers of the Barbie movie, who also runs Mattel Films, because she said that it's not a feminist movie. And when this was put to Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig, I believe they both very politely sort of said that they think it is very much a feminist movie. So what do you make of that?
Look, it clearly is a feminist movie because it talks about things that concern women exclusively, and it's about the equality, women trying to find equality in the real world, not the Barbie world, in the real world that is, you know, predominantly run by men. But what Greta Gerwig has also said, because I asked her, I said, is it a feminist movie? And she's kind of just rolled her eyes and went, of course it's a feminist movie, my God. But she said what it also is a humanist movie. So it is something that is for everyone. It's for Barbie. It's enough for Barbie to be Barbie. It's enough for Ken to be Ken. It's okay to be just you. And I think that is what Greta was really trying to get across, that it's hard to be a woman. It can be hard to be a man, but we can all find some type of middle ground where it's okay to be you. And I think the reason the Mattel people were sort of kind of brushing off, it's not a feminist movie, because they're worried about box office. And I think they probably thought, you know what, if people think there's this like feminist Barbie movie out there, no one will go and see it. But of course they did, because as I said, it's made more than $1 billion at the box office, and the screenings I've been to have been sold out with ages from 6 to 96 there, men and women. Who cares? It's a feminist movie anyway, too.
And this sort of brings me to this idea, which I believe is at the heart of the way you look at the film and all the commentary that's come out about it, which is that Barbie doesn't have to be a feminist icon, or she's totally against feminism. You know, she doesn't have to be one thing or the other. So can you just tell me a bit about the way you view it, which I think is a really different take than what I'm hearing and seeing online, I guess, when it comes to the commentary.
I know. I think it's just because, I mean, so much of my love of Barbie is rooted in the fact that I played with her so much, and I just looked, as I said, as Barbie as a tool, and we put so much on her that she has to be either the perfect toy or look like the perfect woman, but she doesn't. What if she's just something that we play with, and that's okay? Like, no one is putting these expectations on boys' toys. That's the thing, you know. No one is doing studies on G.I. Joe or He-Man into, you know, the size of their muscles being totally unrealistic. But yet there are studies being done by Finnish universities on whether or not Barbie could get her period. She can't. She's a doll. Can we just let her be a doll in a way? That's right. Just kind of thing. Just let kid stuff be kid stuff in a way. We're putting adult concerns and thoughts and feelings on a doll, and I bet no 5-year-old or 6-year-old is looking at her Barbie going, she can't get her period. Oh, well, I'm not going to play with her. They're not. What is a period? That's at that point.
Which I guess brings us to that fabulous, though, last scene of the movie. Yes. When you think Barbie's going for an interview, she's entered the real world, and instead she's going to
see her gynecologist. And what dream for every woman. I mean, that's the perfect ending. I mean, that is it. That is what I loved about the ending, is that Barbie, she could have been perfect. Like, you know, she could have stayed in the perfect Barbie land, but she chose the thoughts and the feelings and the complications, the messiness of being a real woman. I mean, that is fantastic. I mean, we can aspire to be one thing, but it's always better to be you. And that's what it is for Barbie, and that's what it is for Ken. You are Kenuff, as you know, as Ken says, because that's what Ken ends up realizing. He doesn't have to be this ultra-hyped, masculine, horse-loving man. He can just be Ken, and that's okay. Barbie can just be Barbie, and she also doesn't need a man. That's the other great thing about it. She chose to be herself. She didn't need Ken to make her any better. She just chose an appointment with a gynecologist. Isn't that great?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I loved it because it plays into, of course, that joke that, you know, neither Barbie nor Ken, of course, have genitals, which obviously is a joke in the movie. So it was certainly surprising. But, I mean, do you think it makes the messiness of womanhood look appealing in some way?
Makes it real. That's the thing. I think I've written it down, but part of what America Ferrera's character said, which is, you know, you have to be thin but not too thin. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. But you know what they do? They give you the Barbie movie to go and watch and make you feel better, and that it's okay. It's okay to be this, as Greta says, a multiplicity of things. You can be one or the other. That's okay. No one has to be perfect. You can be many things, probably in a day. You can be happy and sad, and that's okay. And that's what I want to see when I go to the movies.
Thank you, Louise, for joining us and bringing in your Barbies.
Anytime, Sam. I've got some more I can bring in to play next time.
I mean, I would love to. I was genuinely impressed that, like, I've never seen a Barbie with I mean, you wouldn't call it a mohawk, but she's an undershave.
An
undercut.
You've got a bit of an
Which
undercut.
is like much groovier than the ones I remember for sure.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.